Hi there, and thanks a lot for jumping into this video. Whether you're a solopreneur, planning to launch a SaaS product on the side, or looking into founding a company and creating a team, you need to know some basics about running a tech startup before you get started. That's exactly what I'm going to cover in this video. We're going to look into the benefits of running a SaaS product, the pros and cons, how to actually get started, and how to market it. I obviously can't cover everything there is to know, but I will go through the basics, and I promise you a jam-packed video with a lot of useful information. So bring on a nice cup of coffee, sit back and enjoy. Let's get started. If you're new to this channel, I just want to say welcome here. I'm Simon Højberg. I'm a software engineer and founder of a tech startup, and I'm doing the best I can to share everything I learned from my journey. Before we go on, please take a second to hit that small like button below, and if you like my content, consider subscribing to my channel as well. I know, we often forget, I do it too, but that single little click on the like button makes a world of difference to me. Thanks a lot. Alright, let's talk about tech startups now. First of all, let's just get the definition narrowed down. What exactly is a SaaS product? The term software as a service, or SaaS for short, refers to a hosted software product that is licensed on a subscription basis. So it means that the software product lives on a domain as opposed to being distributed, and that the customers buy access to the software on a recurring basis via subscription. Good examples of popular SaaS products are Jira, Trello, Basecamp, Figma, Slack, Dropbox, and so on. Another more informal definition of a SaaS product is that it's used to solve a problem on demand. By this definition, services like Netflix and Spotify are not classified as SaaS products, even though the users pay for access on a recurring basis. They are selling a license to access movies, TV shows, music, and podcasts, but they're not considered tools that you use to solve a problem per se. Software such as Adobe Photoshop, Sketch, and Pro Tools are not exactly classified as SaaS either. Even though you do pay for them on a recurring basis, they're not centrally hosted. Instead, they're distributed through executable files. However, today these solutions also come with cloud services for storage, stock photos, templates, videos, and so on, so it actually becomes a little bit more difficult to exactly classify. I think the easiest definition that most people refer to is that a SaaS product is a digital service that you pay for on a recurring basis as a subscription. And by that definition, I think it's perfectly fair to call all of these good examples of SaaS products. Benefits of SaaS as a startup. SaaS is becoming increasingly popular for a number of reasons. The barrier of entry is really low. Anyone with some programming experience can set up their own SaaS product. Social media such as Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube makes promotion easily accessible, let alone all the popular sites such as Product Hunt, Beta List that are made specifically for early adopters of new SaaS startups. Given the rise of the internet and modern browser technologies, SaaS also introduces another huge advantage: continuous delivery. It has never been easier to constantly roll out updates, bug fixes, run multiple versions of your product in parallel, and gain constant feedback and validation. Technologies like WebAssembly, which pushes the boundaries of how heavy and sophisticated software you can actually run in the browser, makes the market of SaaS products extremely competitive and lucrative. Figma is a great example of this. Most of the technologies needed to run a successful SaaS startup today is cheap, easy to access, and has a ton of resources on the internet on how to get started. This also means that we can kill off some of the myths about running a tech startup. You don't need to live in Silicon Valley. You do not need to be backed by multiple venture capitalists, and you do not need to hire a full team. In fact, you don't even need an office. You don't need to quit your regular day job. You can start a SaaS company on your own in your spare time and simply let it grow slow and steady. In fact, there are countless examples of this. People with software skills who created their own SaaS products, marketed them through social media, and are now making money on the side from their products. Considerations of SaaS as a startup. Given the exact same reasons, the internet is also flooded with SaaS products. The competition is extreme. There are developing countries in the world that can deliver software at almost no cost, and where you may be only one person to build something, there could be an entire team of highly skilled professionals building that very same thing. Mostly anything has been built. It's really difficult to come up with a great idea that hasn't been considered already. If your idea is unique and has not been built yet, there's a good chance that it's because no one is interested in this concept. 9 out of 10 tech startups fail. The most common reason is that the startup is building something that no users are interested in, and that they eventually run out of money and time. The market is tough, and for this reason exactly, it is of crucial importance to build a SaaS product in small iterations and include users as soon as possible. You want to learn what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong as fast and as often as possible. We're going to look into this a little bit more in a few minutes. Alright, with these pros and cons in mind, let's get into the more important stuff here. How to actually build a SaaS product. First, you need to find an idea. As we just touched upon, finding an idea for a SaaS product can be a challenge. You typically run into one of two situations. Either the idea is already taken and there's already a huge or multiple huge players out there already, or the idea is brand new, but then there's no current market data available. Both of these situations pose challenges. If there's already a big player out there, you will have a huge competitor, and you will be met with a lot of, "But X is already doing that," when presenting your idea, and the establishment of your competitor can become very demotivating and demoralizing at glance. On the other hand, if you happen to come up with something new, there's now a lot of uncertainty at play. You have no current market data to rely on. You have no idea whether people even need or want your product, and it may become extremely difficult to validate. Some of the greatest products in the world did rise on the occasion of the second situation. However, the safest bet is actually situation number one. Find a product that is already mass adopted and then create an alternative to that product. Change small variables, approaches, and ideas. Innovate the way things are carried out, but aim at solving the same problem overall. Typically, the market is big enough for another player and another product. If you can solve a problem and solve it in a satisfying way, you are bound to get clients sooner or later. In fact, I talk about this exact topic in more details in another video. Be sure to check it out as well. As we established earlier, it is of crucial importance to build a SaaS startup in small iterations and include users as soon as possible. We want to do this in order to gather validated learnings. That is, either confirming or rejecting a hypothesis that we have. When using the lean startup method, this process is called the build, measure, learn feedback loop. Every time we build a feature, we build it based on an assumption that the user will be using and eventually be willing to pay for that feature. An assumption is also called a hypothesis, and if we build an entire SaaS product based on assumptions, we may completely miss it. That's why it's important to not get carried away and just build blindly. According to the lean method, every time we plan on building a feature, we must somehow validate that the feature is actually wanted. We can do this by building the smallest possible version of that feature and then testing it on real users. If the feature turns out to be unwanted by the users, hence we reject the hypothesis, we haven't spent too much time on developing it. If the feature turns out to be wanted by the user, hence we confirm the hypothesis, we can now invest more time into improving it. A SaaS product that only consists of these small and unfinished features is called an MVP, a minimal viable product. It is a SaaS product that is working only to the extent that we can gather validated learnings about it. That is, confirming and rejecting our hypotheses. Eric Ries wrote an award-winning book called The Lean Startup. I highly suggest that you take a look at that. Choosing the tech stack. Choosing the right tech stack for your SaaS product is very important. You may like Vue better than React, or you may prefer Python over Node.js. You may be more experienced with Azure than AWS or Google Cloud Platform. These are actually not that important. I suggest to simply go with the technologies you know the best. What is important is to keep scalability and flexibility in mind, because building a SaaS product is based on a high level of uncertainty. You want the ability to make as little initial investment in running your platform as possible, but at the same time, you want to be able to scale it as soon as needed. For this reason, picking solution based on a pay-per-use model is ideal for running a SaaS product. Serverless architecture is probably the best choice here. Instead of running a server where you pay for constant uptime, you run cloud functions where you pay per execution time instead. Instead of running a hosted database where you also pay for constant uptime, you run a managed database that allows you to pay per write and per read. I made another video where I break down the architecture for FeedHive, the SaaS product that I'm running, into details. Be sure to check that out as well. Choosing the pricing model. When running a SaaS product, you need to choose a pricing model. The following pricing models are commonly used. Usage-based pricing. With this pricing model, the price increases along with usage. For example, this model is used by AWS when they charge per 100 milliseconds of runtime of cloud functions. Per user pricing. With this pricing model, companies charge a fixed rate per month per user on an account. For example, Slack uses this for their paid version. Flat rate pricing. This is probably the most commonly used model. One product with one price. The price is the same for all users and all users get the same set of features. Freemium and trial. Along with the above pricing models, it is typical to combine with either a freemium model, that is, a part of the software is free and unlimited, or a trial version of the software where the full software is free and unlimited for a period of time, most typically 30 days. Picking the right pricing model and price can be hard, and most typically, this calls for multiple iterations on its own. How to gather validated learnings. There are many ways to gather validated learnings, and only creativity sets the boundary. However, there are some common strategies that you can rely on. Let's go through them here. Prototyping. With modern technology, it has become really easy to create a prototype of your SaaS product. A prototype can range from low-fidelity prototypes, which can be as simple as a mock-up sketched on a piece of paper or a whiteboard, to high-fidelity and functional prototypes that emulates an almost functional application. Tools like Figma, Sketch, and Adobe XD are great tools to quickly set up a prototype. Now you have something to present to users. Analytics. Gathering analytics is an essential part of running a SaaS product. You want to leverage tools such as Google Analytics, Segment, and Amplitude to carefully track the behavior of your users on your landing page and in your app. You want to track how many visitors bounce in less than 2 seconds, how many visitors scroll to the bottom, how many visitors check out the pricing page, and so on. Studying the demographics of your visitors is also important. Which country they're from, which device they're using, from where they're referenced, and so on. Most modern analytics tools ships with a complete package for this out of the box. Making a simple sign up for a newsletter form can also be a great way to get a sense of the interest in your upcoming product. User testing. User testing is a great way to gather validated learnings. Align with an initial round of users to try out your product. Make a Zoom call with each of them and have them share their screen while using your product. Do not guide them. Simply observe how they use your product to solve various problems. Record the sessions, with the user's consent of course, so that you can study it later. Creating personas and client profile is a great way to formulate a hypothesis. Make up a fictional persona that has the qualities of your ideal client. Make assumptions about how this persona will use your product. Then see if you can find an actual user that matches the description of your persona. Now, observe how the actual user is interacting with your product and hold that up against the hypothesis you made based on your persona. Split testing. Asking users about their opinion can be an obvious way to gather information about the problem you're trying to solve. There's an issue with this though. Most often the user knows the problem really well, but has a very limited insight when it comes to the solution. As a general rule of thumb, you should listen closely when the user describes the product. When they try to suggest a solution, you should stop listening entirely. Instead, you want to test various solutions out yourself. Split testing is a very powerful technique here. The idea is that you create multiple versions of the solutions to a problem, and then you expose different groups of users to the different versions, and then you track which one works the best. Most cloud providers have a mechanism that supports this. With AWS, you can use the Lambda Edge feature to randomly assign an incoming visitor to a version of your web page to present them to. This is a great way to answer questions such as, where should I put the sign-up formula? How should the call to action be formulated? Should the user be allowed access before paying? And so on. After split testing such hypotheses, you will be able to see for yourself which version of something that yields the best results. Promoting your SaaS product. Finally, let's talk a bit about promoting your SaaS product. A classical mistake among new SaaS founders is that they underestimate the importance of promoting their SaaS product. You should put at least the same amount of effort into promoting your product as you do developing it. Promoting your product is not something you do when the product is finished. You should be promoting your product from day one. How else would you gather validated learnings? Let's take a look at a couple of ways to promote your SaaS product. Build an audience. You should spend time building an audience around your product. Some of the most successful products in the world have a strong base of fans associated with their products. This audience will become advocates for your product, and for that reason, this type of promotion is by far the most powerful. Building an audience takes a lot of time. It's not something that happens overnight. You need to be fully invested in this, and, as mentioned, spend at least the same amount of time on this as you do on developing your product. There are great communities centered around SaaS and tech startups. Indie Hackers is a great example. Start networking with other SaaS founders here. Paid ads. A great addition to building an audience is using paid ads. Most social media platforms like Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube offer an ad program. You typically pay a fixed price per day, and the platform then takes care of exposing your ads to the right audience. It's neither complicated or particularly expensive to get started. Paid exposure does not have the same effect as having an audience advocate for your product, but it can be a great way to create awareness about your SaaS product. Affiliate marketing. Affiliate marketing is placed somewhere between an audience and paid ads. This marketing technique can be a great compromise when you don't have an audience of dedicated fans of your product already. Offering a commission to users that are willing to advocate for your product can be a great way to create initial trust and reputation. The best way to get started with affiliate marketing is to reach out to users on social media that has an audience already. Be aware that profiles with a massive follower base receive many offers every day, and they can be hard to reach. In the beginning, it may be a good idea to find users that have some followers but are not yet considered big influencers in their niche. And there it is, the very basics of founding a tech startup. Keep an eye on my channel because I'm gonna cover a lot of the topics that we've discussed in this video in much more details. If you didn't already, please give this video a like and consider subscribing to my channel. See you soon for another video about business and tech.